Tata has updated the Tiago hatchback for 2026. There's new exterior design, new interior highlights, upgraded feature list, and even paddle shifters for the CNG AMT. So yes, the Tiago has a lot going on for it all of a sudden. Today, we're going to drive both cars, the CNG and the petrol, and tell you if it's actually any good, are the upgrades worth the money, and has Tata actually raised the stakes in the entry-level hatchback game. One of the biggest changes for this new Tiago or 2026 Tiago as we're calling it is a completely new face. Gone are the sort of chrome lines of the old car. It's gone in for more modern shapes and sort of more modern colors. Some of the highlights here include new full LED headlamps, large blacked out Tata element with the Tata logo and a blacked out lower section. It also gets multiple new paint schemes. The one that's featured in our video for this car is called Pangong Pulse. Over on the side, you get 14-inch style wheels for the CNG variant, blacked out ORVMs, chrome door handles, and of course, when you look at it as a whole, Tata has retained the essence of the Tiago, the silhouette that made it famous. Now, when you come to the back of the Tiago in this 2026, guys, you see elements like this connected, what appears to be a light bar, but it's more of a design element. Completely new elements for the tail lamp. It's new tail lamps with new elements inside, Tiago badging, and of course, CNG written here and there. Now, overall, when you look at the car, like we said, Tata has modernized the design, added new elements, but also retained the essence of the Tiago, the overall silhouette, the thing that has made it endearing to the hatchback segment since its launch nearly a decade ago. Apart from the upgraded interiors, the sort of fabric finish and the new screens and the physical buttons, Tata has also added a whole load of new features in this creative variant as well as the variant above it. Essentially, this is a creative variant, and the petrol that will be featured later in the video is a creative plus variant, a top spec model. You don't get CNG for the top version, we'll get into that later. Some of the major highlights include a 360-degree camera, full LED headlamps, a blind spot monitor, IRA connected car technology, and auto folding mirrors. All things that have now sort of become expectations in this part of the market or are completely new to the overall game. Now, we've told you all about the new features, new dashboard, the new upholstery options, all available and all making the Tiago sort of more modern in its latest avatar. But do these things actually work? Let's check out a few of them. First, let's talk about the fabric upholstery. Now, like we said, the Tata has shifted from one form of grey and black to the other form of grey and black. It was originally kind of upholstery with plastic, but now it's fabric with plastic fabric-like material. And this is all very nice to look at, adds a sort of airiness to the cabin. But fabric, it's a very light material, especially in this shade, and in a dusty country like India, it's bound to get dirty quickly and get soiled in places that you won't even be aware about. The other thing is, of course, gloss black plastics here. The thing with gloss black plastics is that they look nice, but again, they are dust and fingerprint magnets. Essentially, if this is the kind of interiors you want to go for, you need to pay a little more attention to what's going on in the cabin. Now we'll move over to the screen. The screen is the same as the one that was introduced last year. They have upgraded the UI, so there are more features, quicker access to some of the features also. It's a nice screen to use, surprisingly bright in the sunlight, very easy to use. You quickly get to where you want, but it does have a tendency to hang at times or lag at times. You also get a lot more features, including things like wireless connectivity and so on and so forth, but essentially a nice screen to use. Now, while that is nice, right, it's one of those things that's a kind of central focus to the car. The instrument cluster is not that great. Now, Tata originally had a sort of manual pods when the car was launched, and then kind of went semi-digital, and now it's gone completely digital. While the idea is nice, Tata hasn't executed it very well because the instrument cluster is not at all visible in direct sunlight. Tata could have either placed a cowl or needs to give a much stronger backlight. Now, this is quite crucial in the form that your speedometer and fuel gauge, especially for the CNG variant, because you don't have a distance to empty. It's not at all visible in sunlight. Maybe that's something that Tata needs to work on. Finally, has a space to be here because you have a large center console here. You get your two zones for both the front occupants with more than enough headroom and shoulder room. There's no sunroof, so there's no issue of loss of headroom here. It's actually a pretty nice place to be in. Visibility up front is pretty good, but back, because of a giant C pillar that you get, sometimes visibility is affected. But in this one below top spec version, essentially the Creative and the Creative Plus, you get a 360-degree camera, and that is effective, though we've not been able to test it in low light, something we may do when the car is brought to the CarWale garage later this year. But it's something that's very helpful. The resolution is good, and you get a kind of top view, bottom view, side view. It's actually one of the first cars in the segment to get this, and it makes a huge difference to the overall experience, especially when you need to park in a tight space. The second row package of this Tiago, the CNG guys, and for 2026 is functional to say the least. There's space for two occupants to sit comfortably. Third one is going to be a real squeeze one because you have this console sticking out, and also the material is slightly higher and different here. But you do get a 3-point seat belt for your second occupant. In terms of features, in this version, this is a Creative variant, whereas the petrol that's being featured in the video is a Creative Plus variant. You don't get a USB-C charging port here, but you get one in that. It's a 65 kilowatt hour fast charging one. You do get rear AC vents. This is the first time that it's being offered with the ICE Tiago, and you don't get a phone pocket, right, like some of its rivals do, but you get magazine pockets here in the seat back, and if you have to charge your phone in front, it works here. The door pockets are kind of tiny, 500 ml bottles at the best, and one of those things that's added there because of functionality and had to be small because of the way that the rear space is designed. Now, in terms of headroom and shoulder room, there's more than enough. Like, dimensions haven't changed, so essentially it's been the same as it was since before. This rear seat back rather folds down for additional boot space. Boot space, especially in the CNG variant, is one that has taken a hard hit. Tata has fitted its twin-cylinder tech to the Tiago, but even then it's a tight fit. The standard car has a boot space of 242 litres, and while Tata has officially not revealed numbers for this CNG variant, you can tell that it's not a lot to work with. But this is still better than before Tata introduced the twin-cylinder CNG system, where the Tiago had no boot space at all. Much like the Altros, the CNG line stops one below the top at the Creative trim. And if you want a fully loaded Tiago, then petrol is your only option. The Creative Plus variant, which is Rs 30,000 over the equivalent Creative variant, gets you dual wireless chargers, IRA connected car system, LED fog lamps, a 65-watt USB-C fast charger at the back, and a dual-tone black roof. While 30,000 rupees may not seem like a particularly large amount for those additional features, you have to consider the fact that a Creative Plus variant of the Tata Tiago in CNG, guys, especially at the time of making this video, if you were to add 30,000, it would push the price of the Tata Tiago CNG above the rupees 10 lakh mark, something I don't think Tata wants at this moment. It may introduce it at a later date if there is sufficient demand. In our books, a value for money variant for this Tata Tiago range, we think, is the Creative variant, because you get all the features, all the powertrain, and you get all the color options too. Well, when we say all the features, you get most of whatever's available. You're not missing out on anything pretty significant. You get all the luxury features offered with the car, and maybe eventually, if there's enough demand, we feel that Tata will bring a Creative Plus variant for this Tiago CNG AMT. Now, if you want all the details on this car, you can get it right here on the CarWale app. You get on-road prices, variant-wise comparison, reviews, news, and even comparison with immediate rivals. It's something that's very strong on CarWale, and you can check it out here. Now that we've told you what the interiors, exterior, and what the actual features are like in this new Tata Tiago, here's what it's like to drive. There's no mechanical changes. You still get the 1.2 litre petrol engine, produces 86 bhp and 113 Nm of torque. And first up, we're driving the petrol, and we have a manual with us. You can either have it with a 5-speed manual or a 5-speed AMT. That's an automated manual. The manual gearbox is surprisingly slick, You can move through the gears easily. There's a good amount of torque, especially in third and fourth gear, more than enough for highway cruising. Something, it's an excited, buzzy little engine that keeps it going, and you'll have no problem. You don't have to row through the gears as much. It builds up speed, feels slightly tall, essentially for you to cover long distances on a road like this. You can see in front of us, not going to be an issue at all. There are a few points here and there though. One, the vibrations are very strong. You can feel it in the steering, you can feel it in the gear lever. When the car is idling, you can feel it on the toes. One of those things, the consequence of having a 3-cylinder engine. Second is it's very noisy. Even though Tata's worked a lot on the insulation of this engine, it is very noisy and it's very buzzy. But again, if you want to look at it in a positive manner, you could maybe also think of the fact that for this budget, this is the engine you're getting, and maybe it also adds some amount of excitement to your driving experience. Now, as a car to drive, the petrol engine is very zippy. It comes with cruise control, unlike the CNG AMT that you get it with the manual. And it's a nice engine to drive. Like we said, it feels lively and it feels like it wants you to push it. How coming to the steering is surprisingly light and easy to use at low speed, but weighs up nicely. I mean, there's not much feel, but as you go faster, there's a reassuring heft that comes as you build up the speed, something that's crucial so that you don't make wild movements while you're on the highway. But like we said, there's a lot of vibrations, especially as you start to go faster, but it's one of those things that you'll get used to. Now, one of the big claims that we are expecting is that this will be a decently efficient engine. There aren't real world numbers as yet, or there aren't even claimed numbers. Not something that Tata has announced so far. Maybe they'll do it down the line, but whenever this car does come to the CarWale garage, we'll be sure to put it through a real world mileage test and tell you what the numbers are like. Now, one of the places that this car actually shines pretty significantly is in terms of ride quality. That's something that Tata's always been pretty good at. It does feel a little busy, high speeds, but it's not something that's uncomfortable. And in fact, for the most over rough roads and little potholes and bumps, this thing is just going to breeze over it. Something Tata is very good at. Ground clearance is a bit of an issue. It's not a particularly high number. It's not that SUV like 180 mm, which means that if you have a fully loaded up car, especially like a CNG car with luggage and people, it's going to scrape, and maybe that's something you should be careful about. And now we'll switch over to the CNG version. Now out of the petrol and into the CNG. CNG uses the same 1.2 liter petrol engine, but in this case it produces 75 bhp and 95 Nm of torque, and you can either have it with a 5-speed manual or a 5-speed automated manual. In fact, Tata was the first one, I think globally itself, to bring AMT and CNG technology together. They have decided to up the game by adding paddle shifters. So essentially, instead of having a plus minus here on the gear lever, you now get paddle shifters that control this. Now, as a car to drive, this engine doesn't feel underpowered, right? It was the same impression we had when the car turned up the first time. In CNG mode, it doesn't feel underpowered. It's zippy, it's fast, it allows you to keep the performance that you would want from such an engine. To switch between CNG and petrol is just one button here. You can do it on the fly, which means that if you were to run low on one of either one, you can switch easily. But one little catch, if you switch into CNG mode, there's no distance to empty, versus you get a distance to empty in petrol. The CNG just has bars, and maybe that's something you should keep track of. And also playing into this fact is that the instrument cluster doesn't have particularly great visibility in sunlight, which means that's something you should really be aware of, especially if you're driving in CNG mode. Now, as a car to drive, this feels surprisingly more planted than the petrol. Some of that is down to the fact that it has a weight on the back, right? It might be a twin-cylinder CNG tank, but it's a weight on the back of the car, so it feels a lot more planted, rides much nicer than just the standard petrol. That too rides well, maybe a little busy, but this one rides nicer. The steering, like the standard petrol version, one, like we said, you don't get a distance to empty, and with the instrument cluster not able to provide you good visibility in sunlight, maybe that's something you should keep track of. Two, the petrol and CNG can be filled from the same side. That's a very standard Tata thing, that you get petrol and CNG filling from the same side, which means that when you roll into the pump, that's one less thing for you to be concerned about. Third is, of course, the fact that it gets twin cylinder tech in the back, which means that the tanks sit lower, and that has had something to do with kind of balancing out the weight. However, we have to also point out that with a full petrol tank, a full CNG tank, and 5 people in the car and maybe some luggage, ground clearance is possibly going to be an issue because of the fact that this doesn't have that 180 SUV style ground clearance. So over the rough stuff, even though this rides nicely, there's a high chance that you'll scrape, and maybe that's something you should be cautious about. One of the new additions, or one of the new things, involvement and driving experience that Tata has brought, is that it's added paddle shifters to this CNG AMT. I mean, it was already pretty good that Tata had a CNG and automatic. They're the first ones to bring it to the market. These paddle shifters essentially replace the plus and minus that you'd normally get with an AMT gearbox. By the way, Tata has managed to take care of a lot of the head nod. It's more or less pretty smooth driving. Normally, the head nod movement that you would get with an AMT gearbox, they managed to sort that out. The paddle shifters are very good. They're very responsive. They give you a certain level of engine braking that you would expect when you want to take manual control. But there are 2 to 3 things that you should take into consideration. One is the system is designed to protect the gearbox, which means that you can't be in a gear too high for a speed too low, or vice versa. It won't let you shift, and that's more to do with not having to over rev the engine. So it's a system that will keep in control. It also won't automatically shift if you're in manual mode and you don't change gears on the paddle. However, to switch back to automatic drive mode, you just have to give the dial a little whirl and it's ready to go. 2026 Tata Tiago. Here are the choices in front of you: petrol, CNG, Varanasi vibrance, Pangong pulse. What do you want to choose? Let us lay out the facts for you. Now, here are some of the things that you should look at. One is the fact that Tata has moved to a completely new design for the car. In this case, they're essentially variants of the Tiago, so they look very similar and get most of the same features. The petrol is one spec higher. It's a Creative Plus, which means that it gets a few more details like fog lamp and alloy wheels, while this one is one spec lower, Creative. That's a standard Tata strategy, that it usually doesn't have a top of the line CNG variant, but still pretty much loaded up. Inside also very similar. Again, there's a difference of rupees 30,000, and it's down to some luxury features. But again, like we have said, the value for money variant is the Creative variant, right? If you want to go for more, you get the Creative Plus, but that means it's petrol only. Now, in terms of driving experience, the petrol, it feels a little zippier, and it has a manual gearbox, and the gearbox is very slick. It rides nicely. Whereas the CNG has AMT with paddle shifters, the first in segment. The paddle shifters respond nicely, and the AMT makes easy work of driving. And this car feels a little more planted because it's heavier, so it rides nicer. You feel a little more confident. Steering is light in both cases, but weighs up nicely as you go faster. Now, here's the thing: there are a lot of positives for both cars, right? They look nice, spacious inside, good new features, but there are also a few things that we need to point out. One is the fact that you don't get a top of the line CNG variant. That's something Tata may address, considering there is expected to be significantly higher demand. Second is quality issues with some of the build quality, with some of the things that are in the car with regard to plastic and switches and so on and so forth. Third is the fact that the gear selector dial doesn't have a stronger stop mechanism, especially when you have to switch between reverse and neutral. The feedback we got from Tata was there was an audio chime for it, but the audio chime has been removed because a lot of buyers were saying that it's too much sense. It's a kind of sensory overload. But we feel that if you get a stronger click mechanism on that, it banks better on safety. The entry level segment is one that has kind of struggled for a while. Now, when you look at some of the competition that this car is facing, let's pick out 3 big names. One is the Maruti Suzuki Swift, two is the Hyundai Grand i10 Neos, and third one is the Citroen C3X. Now, in terms of Swift, it's an established brand name. It's actually one of the most strongest established brand names, and a new generation came out 2 years ago. But now, when you look at this car versus the new generation Swift, it might be a bigger vehicle, but it's starting to feel a little dated. Maybe it's time that Maruti updates the Swift with some of these features that are available on both these versions of the Tiago. It's a very similar story with the Hyundai Grand i10 Neos. Again, the car actually hasn't got any significant updates in a while now, maybe cosmetic or one or two features, and same case with this vehicle. But you do get more features. You get things like a sunroof, automatic transmission, all of that with the Grand i10 Neos. The C3X is actually one of the most significant rivals to this vehicle in terms of actual competition, in terms of size, in terms of features, automatic gearbox. Of those, the C3X is actually a pretty big rival, the Citroen C3X. But Citroen is yet to establish itself in terms of after sales and service. It's still working on that. It still has a long way to go, especially when you compare it to a company like Tata. So that's the challenges being placed in front of this car. What do you think of this new 2026 Tata Tiago? Do you own one? Do you think that Tata should have added some more features, and do you think there should be a top spec version for the CNG so that we kind of level the playing field and powertrain doesn't become an issue anymore? Let us know about your ownership experience and what it's been like in the comment section below. And before we sign off, here's a reminder to hit those like, share and subscribe buttons, and also bell icon to be notified the instant we put out a new video. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.